It's such a beautiful diaspora where it's part of our existence, which is intrinsic to an aspect of culture that we can separate from. Right? You hardly see cartels in America, and they're getting as Americanized as all of us like to get. The system she works in, she used to work in a grocery store. She used to walk 3 miles each way every single day. And, she just got a car. And so she's not walking, but she's still struggling. That's what I wanted to translate and share with her. Theater, experience.
I'm here because of the community, right? Like all of these amazing people. I just love the beauty and resilience of like South Asian community and how I've been embraced, whether it's and I remember at my lowest point was during Navratri, and I could not afford to feed myself. I literally could only afford to pay bills and put gas in my car. And the mandir was keeping me going while I was fasting during Navratri, and I was able to have prasad and keep, keep going. And so I'm just so grateful for this community. And one thing I would like to get rid of is the patriarchy, which stems from colonization. I've had just one too many conversations with aunties that don't know I'm trans and come up to me and, so are you married? You have a boyfriend? How old are you? Where are you living? Oh, you're, when I first moved to California, you're in your, 26? No boyfriend, no husband? You don't live at home? Give me your number. Let me start looking for you. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, wait, but I can't have an identity of my own. Like, I need a man to exist in this world, It'd be nice to be able to move away from that whole idea of, like, you need a man to exist. Looking down on divorce, looking down on women being independent. Let's educate femmes, let's make sure that folks are independent, that they don't have this idea of like, I need a man in order to survive in this world, because a lot of femmes and women put themselves in situations that could be avoided had they not had that stressful, lurking patriarchal gaze on them that's forcing them to make decisions that, had they had the freedom to live a life without that, they would be able to exist, myself included. I've made some horrible decisions in the name of love and patriarchy, because, 30 was approaching and it was like, girl, why are you still single? Like, what's going on? So yeah, I would throw that out. Just get rid of it.
Oh man, everyone here had such these beautiful, sentimental things, and I'm sitting here thinking, like, I just really love Bollywood movies. Like, I grew up on them, that era of like Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum, Dil Se, like that's my jam, that's my stuff right there. But really music and dance really do mean a lot to me. I actually used to perform when I was younger for many years. I did folk dance with a group, and that was one of the few, really tangential places I could connect with my community and my culture. So yeah, dance always brought me a lot of joy, and that always meant a lot to me. I think a lot goes into that as well, right? There's the spectacle, there's the fashion, there's the music, there's the choreography, and the cinematographic language of Bollywood. Yeah, sorry, I'm geeking out, but there's a lot there that I love. And as for something I would get rid of, I want to echo Lana's sentiment of getting rid of the patriarchy, and just to kind of add on to that, I think just the traditional family structure. I think it's a problem, obviously not just in India, obviously everywhere, but the idea of, the family consists of a husband who goes to work and makes the money, and the wife that stays at home and has the kids and takes care of the kids. And there's so many more ways a family can exist than just that. And I would love to see more kind of just queering of both romantic and platonic relationships. I really do believe it takes a village, right, to raise not just a child but everyone. I still need a village. So I feel like if there's just that more community approach to family, I would love to see more of that embraced, and just a rejection of this traditional father-mother type of family structure.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to what Lana was saying earlier. I don't know, the number of times like Indian women at Google have tried to set me up with some guy because they were like, oh, you're like, when are you having kids? Okay. But yeah, sometimes I talk to like my brother every now and then, and like his newly wedded wife, and we talk, and I'm like, he still live in India, and so like sometimes I'll talk to him and I'll be like, yeah, like, why do you have dinner alone? And I'm like, because like, what am I gonna do? Like, he's like, I don't know, like, go see a friend. I'm like, that's not how it works here. Like, you can't just like show up at someone's place. You gotta like text them to call them, and then text them to call them to then meet them. It's like, it's not like in India you just like go knock on someone's door and like they're there. But to him, that's the life. Like, that's the life he lives, where like you just show up at a friend's place. You don't text them. You don't call them. The community is just there. You just go and they're there. That would be nice. Having that kind of community watch would be really nice. I definitely miss that because I remember having that when I was a kid. But then again, that's also the thing that I hate, because I think what comes from that is also everybody being in everybody else's business, which then leads to like all kinds of problems. Some of which, Kajal was mentioning earlier, leads to like all kinds of like things where parents are like, oh, log kya kahenge, like that kind of mentality comes from that everybody being in everybody else's business. So yeah, I love that and I hate that, and I don't know what to do about it.
Thank you all. Thank you for your patience. We're going a little longer, but I'm sure you're as engrossed as we are in sharing our stories. We are here again for visibility, and as the program is aptly titled Pehchan, Identity, and I don't know how to say it in Tamil.
Adayalam.
Adayalam. Thank you. Oh, people have said it. Thank you. And I would just want to ask folks up here real quick, what does that visibility mean to you, and how do you want folks to see you for that visibility? Like, how will you measure every person here who cis on whether they're actually done well or not on our trans visibility scale? Like, how are you going to measure them? What's the one or two things, real brief, that you're going to make sure that they pass the test and they can be allowed to be in this world?
Oh gosh, that's a tough one. I don't know, like, how do I measure visibility for like cis people in like as like an individual? To me, it's like a systemic thing. Visibility is a systemic problem, and there's only systemic solutions to visibility. A friend of mine who's mom was as well, and like she's younger, I'm 32, she's like 27, and like so a lot of like the younger trans women like who are from India, who move here from India, will like talk to me and ask me like, oh, how did you do it, like, or like you know, how do I do this or how do I do that and this and that and like, and like, you know, she said this one thing to me. She was like, "Do you know any like trans women who are like happily married and have kids and have like a family?" And I was like, no. And she's like, "What about like really successful and doing well?" I'm like, very few. And like to me, that's where I want more visibility. I want trans people to like be like have all those things that cis people just take for granted. You know, like, oh, you work hard and you're successful. Like that's just granted, right? Like that doesn't exist for trans people. It's just not there. You know, if you want a family, that's just there for the taking for cis people. That's just not that's just not available to trans people. So to me, that's like the opportunities to have the things that cis people just take for granted. That's visibility to me.
I have a lot of conflicting thoughts on visibility. You know, I always kind of tell people like it's not a coincidence that the two main trans observances, at least here, is Trans Day of Visibility and Trans Day of Remembrance. There's a reason for that. You know, visibility is a double-edged sword for trans people, and I can also kind of speak a little bit of my observances from a transmasculine experience. You know, transmasculine people tend to be erased and made invisible, and our experiences are not as often brought to the surface or told. On the flip side, trans feminine experiences tend to be hyper visible, and that's often due to just femininity in general being commodified and spectacleized, right? So it's a double-edged sword, right? It's two sides of the same coin. This hyper visibility of trans feminine people and this erasure of transmasculine people, and they both kind of serve to like ostracize us and other us, right, from cisgender counterparts. So I think like visibility has to come with protection as well, because visibility puts targets on our backs oftentimes. You know, there's a slew of anti-trans legislation, you know, going across the country right now, and that's due to visibility. That's due to hyper visibility. I think there's one state right now that they're trying to pass a sports bill for one swimmer, one trans girl swimmer, who's they're trying to keep her from competing. So, you know, visibility for cis people, if they're going to uplift us and make us visible, that has to also come with that protection as well. And yeah, I would just say like visibility, it's a double-edged sword, so we have to be mindful about when and how we're uplifting people.
I think you both kind of took the words out of my mouth. But yeah, I think for me, visibility needs to come with protection. It needs to come with equity. We need to be able to feel safe being seen, being visible. As someone who transitioned at 17 and had the idea of stealth being my ultimate goal in life, because I was a Black and brown trans woman living in the South in a very like conservative area, passing stealth for me meant my survival, because there was no way that being visible was going to be sustainable in that space where I was constantly bombarded with news articles, news, you know, segments of yet another Black trans woman being killed in the state of Florida. Now to be in a place where I can choose to be visible, it's very empowering, but I still think of people that are in stealth because they have no choice. They need to pass in order to keep a job, in order to have housing, in order to be safe. And I want us to move to a space where visibility is something that is our birthright in a way, that we can own it without repercussions, that we have the ability to be visible and happily employed and married with families and community, be able to walk out of their homes, be living in a home, regardless of wherever they are in this world, and know that they're being accepted and seen. And I think with the cis community, our cis siblings, doing the work to make sure that we have that protection, that we can be visible, and that we can exist in this society, coexist, I think will go a long way. Unlearning, the patriarchy, colonization, all of the homophobia, transphobia that was ingrained in us, so that we can live in this utopia. And I hope that's something that happens within my generation, that I can see it as a elder 80-plus-year-old trans woman, that the Gen A, Generation Alpha, or whoever's coming after can just exist. There's a young trans girl, she's 11, and I met her when she was 6 years old, and her mother completely supported her. Her mother's Gujarati, her father's Punjabi, and to see this little girl just thriving and existing as an out trans kid, I thought was so beautiful. And I hope that when she's my age, this is not the conversation that she's having, that she's not in this space and having to talk about visibility. She's already visible, she's already seen, and she's already acknowledged, and she gets to just exist. That's my dream.
So for me, I think Lana said it beautifully, and everyone else as well. I just want to add on to the people that date us, whether they be cis men or other people. Don't be afraid. It's not easy dating a trans person when a lot of people don't like us. They don't want to see you love us in public. I just want to share my own experience. So Kevin's my boyfriend, is right there. His parents know I'm trans and everything, and they've been really supportive. Actually, in a way, Kevin also had to fight for the right to date me as well, because sometimes when we'd be out in public, and he started dating me when I was only a year into my transition, so it wasn't. I didn't look the way I do now. So it was really rough, and there have been moments where fights happened, and it just was really scary. And he saw firsthand how the world treated me. So I just want to say to all the men that love, specifically the problematic ones, to all the men that love trans, don't be afraid to love us in the light. Bring us flowers when we're still around, when we're still alive. Don't be afraid to talk about us to your coworkers. We're not some dark secret. We're people, and we love things.
राधिका, तुम्हें समाज को क्या बताना है अपनी विजिबिलिटी को, अपने आप को और आगे बढ़ाने के लिए? हमारे जैसे लोग जो नहीं है, या आम जनता जो है बोलना चाहता है, आम जनता उनको क्या सोचना चाहिए?
जी जी ट्रांस वुमेन हो, किन्नर हो, गे हो, and other people and female, सबकी families, mom, dad, इंसानी होते हैं, इंसानियत होनी चाहिए। अगर उनके घर में ऐसा बच्चा है तो पड़ोस में है या आप देख रहे हैं उसको कि समझ रहे आप ये है, तो उसको सपोर्ट करें, उसको प्यार करें। छोटा सा बच्चा है, उसको अच्छी से शिक्षा दें, उसको पढ़ाई लिखाएं और अच्छे नज़रिए से देखा जाए। हम भी यही चाहते हैं कि जो हमारी आगे की जनरेशन है तो उसको अच्छी इज्जत दी जाए, रिस्पेक्ट दी जाए। तो हम लोग समझेंगे कि जो हम लोग संघर्ष लड़ रहे हैं, जो हमारे आगे की जनरेशन है, उसमें हम देखेंगे कि हमको अच्छा फील हो रहा है, हमारी जनरेशन को अच्छा लग रहा है, रिस्पेक्ट मिल रही है। तो हम लोग समझेंगे कि हमारे जो संघर्ष है हमारा पूरा चक्रव्यूह चल रहा है। और अगर उसकी इच्छा है, ठीक है, ना आपकी गलती ना हमारी गलती है। अगर आपके मेरी मॉम डैड की है, मैं पैदा हुई, तो उसमें उनकी गलती नहीं है ना मेरी गलती है। हाँ, गलती बस उनकी यही है कि लोगों ने उनको ये बोला वो बोला, वो सब बातें करके हमको टॉर्चर किया, हम घर से भागे। तो मेरा दिल करता है मैं अच्छे कपड़े पहनूं, डांस करूं। मेरे को पुरानी बातें याद आती है कि मैं इतना डांस करती थी, ऐसे करती थी, मैं ऐसे करती थी। अभी भी मेरे दिल में ऐसी उमंग जागती है जब मैं ऐसे बैठी रहती हूँ एकांत में। पर सोचती हूँ यार, अगर मैं ये सब करूँगी तो फिर काम भी करना पड़ेगा, पैसे की ज़रूरत है। इंडिया तो है नहीं कि चलो 10 उससे दे दो। गुरु से बोल दिया, जो मेरी गुरु पप्पू हाजी जी हैं झांसी, गुरु मेरे को इतने पैसे चाहिए। अच्छा ठीक है बेटा। मैंने अगर 25 मांगे, उन्होंने 50 दे दिए मुझे। मैंने कहा मम्मा इतना क्या करना मेरे को, गुरु से मैं मम्मी बोलती हूँ। मैंने कहा मैं जितना चाहिए मुझे उतना दीजिए आप। अगर मैं आप ज्यादा लेके जाऊंगी तो फिर मेरा हाथ ज्यादा वो होता है। तो मेरे बचपन से हालांकि वो जो समझ जाते हैं उस हिसाब से धीरे धीरे मेरा स्ट्रगल यहाँ तक आ गया। सपोर्ट इज माई गुरु पप्पू हाजी। मैं गॉड को मानती हूँ, सबसे ज्यादा हनुमान जी महाराज को मानती हूँ मैं। उनसे अगर है तो उसके सेकंड नंबर पे मेरी गुरु है। आई लव दैट। माई गुरु इज माई मॉम, माई डैड, इज माई ब्रदर, इज ऑल माई फैमिली, इज माई गुरु। यहाँ पे आने के लिए इज वेरी मिसिंग, all time missing, every day, every second, so I'm very missing my guru। और यहाँ पे तो इतना, जो मैं बोलती थी कि मुझे हीरे का कंगन चाहिए, तो वो कहते बेटा कोई बात नहीं, तुम्हें चाहिए सोच। पता नहीं चला कब मेरी गुरु जो मुझे लेके आ जाती थी दिल्ली। मैंने ये क्या है, तूने तो मांगा था, कंगन नहीं है। मुझे कहीं पे भी कोई भी चीज देखती थी, मैं साड़ी से लेके गोल्ड ज्वेलरी, हीरे, पता नहीं मैंने कौन सी तपस्या की या पता नहीं कौन से मेरे पूर्व जन्म का मेरा फल था जो मुझे मेरी इतनी अच्छी गुरु मिली। और मैंने गलतियां की होंगी, कुछ ज्यादा गलतियां की होंगी, लेकिन मेरी गुरु ने कहा कि मेरा बच्चा है, जैसे आप बोलते हैं कि मेरा बेटा है। उन्होंने यही कहा होगा, चल कोई बात नहीं, ठीक है, तू सो जा, खाना खा ले, सुबह काम पे जाना है। कोई भी गलती कभी मेरे को, पर मुझे बैड फील हुआ जब मैंने एहसास किया। आई रिमेम्बर कि आज की माई गुरु। तो हमारे यहाँ मंदिर है, हमारी जो मुर्गे वाली माता है हम उनको मानते हैं, उनकी पूजा होती है, अर्चना होती है। तो मैं घर पे पूजा करती थी सुबह शाम। तो अगर मेरे से कोई गलती होती थी, हाँ, अगर मैं किसी जो हमारे बधाई देने वाले होते, अगर मैंने उनको थोड़ा भी गलत बोल देती थी ना मैं, तो मैं इतना उसमें आ जाती थी टेंशन में कि मैंने क्यों बोला इनको। मैं घर पे आके मंदिर में माफी मांगती थी, और जब मेरा मन नहीं मानता था तो मैं उनके घर जाके उनकी सभी फैमिली से हाथ जोड़ती थी, माफी मांगती थी कि अब मैंने आपसे गलत बोला है, आप हमारे पेट को खाने को देते हैं, आपसे हमारा जीवन चलता है, हीरे जवाहरात गाड़ी घोड़ा सब आप लोगों की वजह से होता है। मेरे माँ बाप ने नहीं दिया मुझे कि तुम लेके जाओ और निकलो यहाँ से। उन्होंने सिर्फ घर से निकाल दिया कि जाओ तुम ये हो। लेकिन अपना है आप लोगों ने, लेकिन फिर उसमें थोड़ा आप भी समझ रहे हैं, अगर आपने खाने को भी दिया है ना तो हमको इज्जत भी दे देंगे। हमको सिर्फ इज्जत चाहिए, रेपुटेशन चाहिए हमको। बस यही हमेशा सोचते रहते कि पता नहीं क्या होना आगे, क्या लाइफ है क्या नहीं, हम लोगों की लाइफ ऐसी जाने। और ऐसी योनि अगर परमात्मा दे तो कभी ना दे। तो कभी ये भी प्राउड फील होता है कि महाभारत में शिखंडी, रामायण में कितने लोगों ने, अर्जुन ने रूप रखा, शिव भगवान ने अर्धनारीश्वर का रूप रखा, तो उनको कोई कुछ नहीं बोलता है। क्यों? गॉड है वो, गॉड। हम नॉर्मल इंसान हैं, तो ऐसा नहीं। हमको रिस्पेक्ट चाहिए, हमेशा रिस्पेक्ट चाहिए। और बस जो आगे की जनरेशन, ऑल माय सिस्टर, लोग कह देते हैं ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन। अरे जिन्होंने ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन करवाया उनसे पूछो ना, कितना पेन हुआ उनको, कितने महीने बेड रेस्ट लिया उन्होंने, कौन कौन सी सर्जरीज हुई है उनकी। एक इंजेक्शन लगता कितना पेन होता है। हम लोगों की जिनसे पूछो ना, हमने एहसास किया, हमने चलो थोड़ा किया, इन लोगों ने कितना एहसास किया, कितना किया इन लोगों ने। ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन ऐसा नहीं कि चलो खाना खाया आपने, बस डाला पेट में हो गया। ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन बस ऐसा नहीं है, उससे पूछो।
If you didn't understand, what she was trying to say is that at the end was we just didn't eat something and become trans. It took a lot of work and all the surgeries and everything. And what she's saying is we've gone through a lot and we were taken in, like in her case, her guru, and she found the love and the respect, and that is something that we are asking for, and that's what she's asking for, so we don't get discounted and erased. I want to thank each one of the panelists for being here. Thank you all for listening and not just hearing us. The work we do at Parivar is fundamental to this. We want to make sure that none of our trans people are just surviving, but they're thriving. And for us, that's the ultimate culmination of seeing our community thrive. And I just want to say, you know, with the inspiration from each one of these folks is what at least keeps me going, despite all the struggles and all the difficulties that come my way. And it's been a very tough journey, I'll tell you. The last 2 years, I've seen so much death and so much struggle of the trans community. But I've also seen their resilience, and I've also seen their love for community. And so, you know, in moving on to the closing part of this event, I want to say a few things. Parivar is grassroots, and some of the things we're doing is to really center trans folks. In India, we started SITO, Save Indian Trans, All India Lives. Many partners came forward, including SEVA International. Seva USA. And here we've been leading the LGBTQ COVID Relief Coalition. Let me give you a statistic. We just opened our second phase of grants, micro grants for individuals for rebuilding within 24 hours. Can anybody guess how many responses we got? Submissions we got, people saying, I don't have food, I don't have a job, I don't have medication. 180 in the Bay Area. We have 900 people in round one. And in India, it's a whole different level. But what I can tell you is that, we have learned, we are trans people trying to take care of trans people, and we just opened our second phase of the livelihood projects. In a few minutes, I'll show you a video of some of those projects that we can proudly say are running successfully. These are a few of the 18 or so projects we have going on. Together, they have collectively made over 5 lakhs, which is so many meals. So many meals. How much is 5 lakhs in dollars? $5,000?
Slightly more than that, yeah.
Slightly more than that.
7,000.
And about half of that they're able to take home, so that's their sustainable income. And as a measure, folks keep me in check, each meal kit that we gave out was about $13. So just imagine how many meal kits they can buy, not meal kits, meals, with that kind of money, because for $1 or $2 you can actually get all your full day's meal, and most of them live in communities, so they're communal cooking. So I really want to say that our work is built on the tears and the struggles of trans Hijra Kinder folks. There's a lot of trauma we carry, but we are channeling that in a way where we can uplift each other, we can stand for each other, and we can really build a community that we at Parivar believe of light, love, and acceptance. I really want to thank each one of you. It would be remiss if I didn't thank my board members, Devesh, Lana. Devesh has been part of Parivar since day one. And I would say, it really, that kind of commitment takes a lot to hear me drab and lament and complain and fight. But that's how you show up for us. That's how you gotta show up for us. And I also want to thank Kavi, who was a part of our board and literally put all of the social media you see. Kavi built that, despite being modest. So each one of us that's what we are striving to do here, and I would like to share the video with you. But in the meantime, if you have any questions for any of the panelists, not loaded ones, feel free to ask.
Anurag, I don't think.
You have to go there.
I think we'll have to speak loudly.
So I want to ask a follow-up question to the point you made about, what you want, and you all of you are so graceful and so articulate and so, I don't have words, but it's so impressive. But the last question that Anjali asked, which is about what is it that you would, or the measures, the metrics on which all of us, rest of us, would be judged by. You said about personal acceptance, but also professional success. It would be great if the trans community can actually enjoy the same successes and it's as normal as possible. Can I ask you, what is it that we can do in enabling that success? In what ways are we right now coming in the way, and what ways can we remove those obstacles?
This is a really, thank you for the question. It's an interesting question. A few weeks ago, I was talking to Susan, the CEO of YouTube, and I was, we were talking about how at Google, there are hardly, especially at YouTube, there are hardly any like directors who are trans. And at YouTube, there's like very few trans people who work there. And you know, like we were talking about like how maybe they should focus on like recruiting, and like then I remembered, oh yeah, but the recruiting team always is like, oh, it's a pipeline problem. Like, there's no trans people who we can hire. And that's something that I see a lot, where eminently qualified trans people can't find a job at all. Because, I don't know, maybe they're in a customer-facing role, and the company's like, well, I don't want somebody who's in a customer-facing role who's trans. Or even in, like, there's organizations in LA which help connect companies to employees who are trans, who are looking for jobs. But there's no, like, there are these, like, benchmarks that a lot of companies set and a lot of people set, people who own businesses, they set, like, oh, I want someone who's, like, I don't know, from this school or that school or whatever. And I've had those opportunities to, like, go to a specific school, to go to a specific program. I think we need to look outside of, like, what are very specific, you know, whatever we think we need someone to have shown us in terms of what they're capable of. And instead, give people a chance to actually show us what they're capable of. So that's, I think, part one of this. The other part is that we all need to build, we need to solve this so-called pipeline problem together. We need to help support trans kids who need not only like a good education, but also like the support that they need in order to be able to get that education. Because a lot of trans kids are often disowned by their parents, so they don't have a place to live, they don't have that safety. So even if they are going to school, it's not like they're not regularly going to school, they don't have the capacity to excel at school, even if like they might be very talented kids, but talent and capacity are two separate things. You can be very talented, but if you don't have any capacity because you don't have any time or no place to be safe, then you can't really excel. So I think we need to support kids in every way, where we provide them the safety, we provide them support, we provide them opportunities to get education, but then also from a business standpoint, we need to look at how do we limit people's ability to get jobs just because they might not fit some criteria, some arbitrary criteria that we have set up because we think that tracks, like we say, oh, this person has this degree and that's why they're good for my job. You can't say that a trans person also needs that same degree to be good for whatever role you want them in, because they might have developed a lot of different skill sets by just like transitioning, by like going through the world and like managing of the process of transition. Like that teaches you a lot of management. That teaches you time management, that teaches you money management, that teaches you a lot of things. You have to like figure out how to like take care of yourself while like go through puberty once more, and like how to like save the money to like get the medical treatment, and you're educating doctors while you're like, because most doctors are not aware, so you're educating them while educating yourself. It develops a lot of skill sets. So I think giving people opportunity to show what skill sets they have instead of just looking at like a CV, which doesn't completely tell you about what someone's capable of, would be helpful.
That's great. I'll just make one very quick comment, and I know other questions. Simji, this is one area I would like us to talk about in terms of Seva Parivar partnership.
I have a question, I'll be loud. Most of the South Asian parents, they really don't know even what is this all about. I'm a biologist, I don't think I know. We work with Anjali ji, and first thing I told her, educate us what is involved in this. So South Asian parents, especially they are in their own zone regarding their kids getting into Ivy school and other things. They are all, especially in Bay Area and everywhere in US, they don't know what is a special day class in their school that is for people who have kids who have learning abilities or disabilities. They just don't know anything. So we don't have, so maybe there is something that needs to start from there, and if
Address the pipeline problem.
exactly the pipeline, that's exactly where things are, because we don't know how to react to this. Either people are too sympathetic, or they are saying go away. There is no in between. So that is one thing that is not there in the school. And remember, the school system here is commercial. Even public school system here is commercial. I have been told very clearly by the principal that your special needs kids, their parents don't pay for those educational funds, so we will not be able to provide a bus support, or the logistic support to take these special needs kids to the Special Olympics. In front of 500 people, a principal of my high school told us in front. So this is where the school system is commercial. They are not looking for this, they show something. In fact, with these classes or with this kind of support that they will show to special needs, I will put this in special needs if you don't mind, because there is no separate thing for trans kids at that point in high school too, right? Am I right? Yeah. So I'll put it in the special needs. They do go to the government and ask for money because they have these classes in the school. But does that get transferred, that money or services to the kids? They don't. That is the issue, and this is where some of those things need to go. Fight needs to go to the educational system itself, and that is the part. I have another. So there are two things. So many of you mentioned that you are longing for the family thing. Would you like to come to my house? I may be completely. Your tastes are different. Your thinking of different. Maybe you have different reading. Your hobbies or something. What I wanted to know, Anjali ji, what are your hobbies? Like if there is something like you want to go for a Bollywood movie, I am happy to go with you and enjoy a movie with you.
Bollywood movies, I was like, yeah, that's me.
No, I'm saying that this is, you know what I'm pointing to,
yeah, no,
right?
Absolutely.
The lead kids, this is where our lead kids program, this is where even our family services program can be put into. I'm not jumping to solution. I'm not jumping to solution. I know design thinking process. I'm not jumping to solution. But this is what I would like to. I don't have that thing that somebody is transgender, and many Asian parents also may not have that. They are, as a parent, I know my son is special needs, so I know what trauma. We know how the trauma that you go through, because you are worried about that kid, how he or she is going to be surviving in this whole world. That's why they are traumatized. And sometimes when I shout at him, or I shout or say something to him, it's out of love that I am worried about. I am 100%.
He's standing right behind you. He's being the dad right now. I know exactly what he's saying.
Out of love, she said. Yeah, I really do.
Well, we should continue this.
So thank you so much. So you are welcome to my house is what I'm trying to do.
I had a question, what was their favorite dish and what was their hobby, but I think we're going to hear that when we mingle.
Correct.
Thank you so much. And one of the reasons we did this here is we always try to go to queer trans spaces as South Asians. But we are coming into a South Asian cis space where we are proudly queer and trans. That's the difference we're looking to make, and we need partners like Seva or AID or folks who are actually going to say, come into our space, take over our space. That is why we did this.
Can I make only one correction there?
Yeah.
It's a South Asian space, not South Asian cis space.
South Asian space.
Yeah, and there's a reason. There's a reason why I'm saying that is because I think that is where all of you said.
Yeah.
That is where we need to get to.
Yeah, absolutely.
This-
But the change comes with us being here.
Indeed.
And eventually it'll come without us being here, but you're still going to talk about it.
Yes.
Could I add to this conversation just a little bit? Something that you said just really kind of actually gave me flashbacks a little bit. My parents, when I came out to them, they actually said some very similar things. We don't understand this. This kind of idea is just outside of our understanding. We don't have the language, right, for what is this? My mom kept saying something like, oh, you're trying to become a boy, you're trying to change into a boy. And I had to explain to her, like, no, that's not what's happening here. And a lot of times, when our parents and our community ask us these questions, it can feel a lot for us like we're trying to justify our existence or like explain our existence, and that can be really painful. And so it's really important, I think, that like the events like these can happen and these conversations can happen in these spaces, because when I try to talk to my mom and my parents, I try to give her these resources, these readings, and she just like will not accept it, will not understand it. But it wasn't until we went to a South Asian space, a spiritual space, and it was like a spiritual, religious leader that kind of explained this concept to her, that it finally, started to click for her a little bit. So that's why it's so important that these conversations need to happen in the language, right, that we understand. And because if we're trying to explain it from an outside perspective, it can be hard to break that barrier.
So, like, to add to that, like, it was a similar story, right? Like, parents have challenges understanding these things, right? And my parents struggled with it for a long time. What I find really interesting is that it doesn't really take that much. Because just last year, my grandma, my dad's mom, she passed away this year, but just last year, she finally, like, talked to me for the first time after, like, I don't know, a decade or more. And, like, it was seamless. Like, talking to her was seamless. She just treated me like I was her granddaughter. There was no explanation. There was no conversation about the past. There was no explaining anything. It was just like, she was like, just come home. I want to see you. You're our daughter. Come home. I want to see you again. So I really don't think that, like, people, like, I don't think people need to understand that much. It's simple. Someone's telling you, I am your daughter. That's it. That should be it.
Powerful. If you want to
Substitute. No?
హాయ్ ఎంతసేపు మీరు చూశారు కదా బ్యూటీ పార్లర్లో నన్ను ఇంత అందంగా ఎవరు రెడీ చేశారు
Sorry, there's no
వాళ్ళు
subtitles.
అనుకుంటున్నారు.
I forgot to mention
హాయ్ అండి
that.
నమస్తే
But this is
నేను
in
ఈ రోజు
Telugu.
ఇక్కడ, హైదరాబాద్
Right.
తెలంగాణ
She's
స్టేట్
talking about-
ఫస్ట్ ట్రాన్స్జెండర్ బ్యూటీ పార్లర్ లో ఉన్నాము. అండ్ ఆ పార్లర్ రన్ చేస్తున్నటువంటి ట్రాన్స్ విమెన్ మన ముందు ఉన్నారు. మీ పేరండి? డాలీ. డాలీ గారు, మీకు ఈ ఆలోచన ఎలా వచ్చింది? మీకు ఈ సపోర్ట్ ఎక్కడి నుంచి వచ్చింది?
సీకల్ పరివార్ వాళ్ళు నాకు ఎంకరేజ్ చేశారు. ఇది పెట్టుకొని ఆల్రెడీ ట్రైనింగ్ అయ్యారు కదా బిఎల్సిసిలో. ఇది పెట్టుకుంటే మీకు లైఫ్ బాగా సెట్ అవుతుంది అంటే నాకు కూడా ఎప్పుడో ఉండేది పార్లర్ పెట్టుకోవాలని. సో నాకు ఈ హెల్ప్ వల్ల నాకు బిజినెస్ స్టార్ట్ చేసే అవకాశం వచ్చింది.
హౌ వాస్ ద బిజినెస్?
బాగుంది, చాలా బాగుంది. బాగా
She's a trained beautician, but she
పార్లర్
herself
స్టార్ట్
has to do sex
చేసినప్పుడు
work. But
చేయడానికి
with
ముందు
this beauty parlor,
వాట్
she's
ఈస్ యువర్ లైఫ్? యాక్చువల్లీ మీరు అప్పుడు ఎలా ఉన్నారు? మీకు ఇప్పుడు ఎలా ఉన్నారు? అప్పుడు ఎలా ఉన్నారు?
ఇప్పుడైతే బిజినెస్ ఉమెన్గా బాగున్నాను.
Wow.
అప్పుడు నేను ఒక ఎన్జిఓ సెక్టర్లో వర్క్ చేసేదాన్ని. అండ్ దానికి ముందు ఇంకా షాప్ ఓపెనింగ్స్ వీటికి వెళ్తానే ఉండేదాన్ని నార్మల్ లైఫ్.
Okay, really nice talking to you. It was very honor. చాలా సంతోషంగా ఉంది నాకు కూడా ట్రాన్స్ కమ్యూనిటీలో వాళ్ళు బిజినెస్ విమెన్ గా మీరు అన్న మాటలో ఆమె బిజినెస్ విమెన్. ఇట్స్ వెరీ బ్యూటిఫుల్ యాక్చువల్లీ. नमस्ते टीजा मम्मी, पाँव पर जी। हाँ, अच्छी हो मम्मी। मैंने सुना है तेलंगाना स्टेट में आप एक ट्रांस वुमन रह के एक साड़ियों का दुकान खोला है आपने, ड्रेस मटेरियल मिलते हैं आपके पास, एक क्लॉथ स्टोर है आपका। आपको ये हेल्प कहाँ से मिला और ये शुरुआत कहाँ से हुई?
पहले मैं घर पे बेचती थी ऐसे ही छोटा मोटा घर पे लाके, लेकिन मुझे शॉप करने का बहुत अरमान था, उतना बजट नहीं था। फिर लॉकडाउन में ये सब महामारी में हम लोग परेशान थे, तो मुझे शीतल परिवार से अंजलि जी जो है उन्होंने हेल्प करी है। तो मुझे उन्होंने परिवार भाई इंडिया की तरफ से ये प्रोजेक्ट मेरा दिया है, मुझे मैंने उसमें डाला था मेरा प्रपोजल, उसको पास किया और उन्होंने मुझे हेल्प की है।
तो मुझे ये पूछना है कि ये बिजनेस से पहले और बिजनेस के बाद आपको कैसा लग रहा है आपका जिंदगी?
हाँ, मुझे बिजनेस से पहले तो मतलब खुशी था, लेकिन बिजनेस के बाद थोड़ा ज़्यादा खुशी है क्योंकि अपना शॉप है मेरा और फिर बिजनेस में उतार चढ़ाव तो आता ही है। अभी तो हमारा स्ट्रगल का ही टाइम है, अभी आगे चल के उम्मीद करती हूँ कि इसको बढ़ाऊँ, डबल ट्रिपल करूँ।
ओह, सी श्रृंगार क्लॉथिंग है ये, तो हम आगे जाके श्रृंगार क्लॉथिंग का हैदराबाद में कहीं ना कहीं तो हम लोगों को देखने के लिए मिलेगा प्लेटफॉर्म्स पे। सो थैंक यू सो मच मम्मी जी।
This is that hotel project.
హాయ్ సహస్ర, ఎలా ఉన్నారు? మీ హోటల్ ఎలా నడుస్తుంది? బాగుందా? మీ హోటల్ పేరు చాలా బాగుంది, సాయి కృపా హోటల్. ఓకే, సరే మీకు ఈ హోటల్ పెట్టుకున్న తర్వాత ఎలా ఉంది? ఈ హోటల్ పెట్టుకోవడానికి అసలు మీకు ఆలోచన ఎలా వచ్చింది చెప్పండి.
ఇదివరకైతే చాలా మంది మీకేం పని లేదా ఇది అది అనేసి అనేవాడు. ఇప్పుడైతే మనం మన కష్టం మనం చేసుకుంటాం కాబట్టి చాలా హ్యాపీగా ఉంది.
ఓకే, సో ఇప్పుడు ఈ ప్రాజెక్టు రావటం కానీ చేయటం వల్ల కానీ మీకు ఎవరు సహాయపడ్డారు దీంట్లో? మీకు ఏ విధంగా సహాయం ఉంటుంది సార్?
ఇది హోటల్ మాకు ఇచ్చింది అంజలి రిమి గారు,
ఓకే,
పరివార
ఓకే,
రచన ముగ్గుబడి
ఇప్పించారు. సో మీరు ఇప్పుడు ప్రాజెక్ట్ నడుపుతున్నారు కదా, మీరు ఒక హోటల్ నడుపుతున్నారు, దీనికి సంబంధించిన ట్రైనింగ్ కానీ సపోర్ట్ కానీ ఇంకా మీకు పరివార్ తరఫు నుంచి వస్తుందా? ఎవరు చేస్తున్నారు?
అంజలి
గారు చేస్తున్నారు. సో మీరు ఈ హోటల్ నడపడం ద్వారా మిగతా ట్రాన్స్ కమ్యూనిటీకి ఏం చెప్పాలనుకుంటున్నారు, సొసైటీకి ఏం చెప్పాలనుకుంటున్నారు?
ఒక ట్రాన్స్జెండర్ దిక్సటానికి పట్టుకే కాదు, వీళ్ళలో కూడా కాయ కష్టం చేసుకుని వీళ్ళకి ఏ పని ఇచ్చినా కానీ వీళ్ళు మంచి పట్టుదలతో శ్రమతో వీళ్ళు చేసే శక్తి వీళ్ళకు ఉందని నిరూపించుకోవాలని నేను కూడా మన కమ్యూనిటీకి చెప్తున్నాను.
ఓకే, థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్ ఫర్ బ్యూటిఫుల్ లంచ్. థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్. థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్. నమస్తే. ప్రేమతో హోటల్ కదా మీది? ప్రేమతో అందరు వచ్చి తింటున్నారా? అందరు తింటే ఎలా నడుస్తుంది హోటల్?
చాలా బాగా నడుస్తుంది.
అంటే మీరు ఇంతకు ముందు చేసిన వృత్తులన్నింటినీ వదిలిపెట్టి ఇప్పుడు ఈ వృత్తిలో వచ్చారు కదా, మీరు ఎలా ఫీల్ అవుతున్నారు?
మేము చాలా హ్యాపీగా ఫీల్ అవుతున్నాం మమ్మీ. ముందు మేము చేసిన వృత్తులను బట్టి సమాజంలో అలాగే మేము ఉండే స్ట్రీట్లో కూడా అందరూ వీళ్ళు ఇంతే మార్నింగ్ లేస్తే భిక్షడానికి వెళ్తారు అలా ఇలా అని మమ్మల్ని చూసి ఎన్నో మాట్లాడిన వాళ్ళు. ఈ రోజు మేమందరం ఇలా బిజినెస్ చేసుకుంటుంటే వాళ్ళు కూడా మాకంటే వీళ్ళ గ్రేట్, మంచిగా బిజినెస్ చేసుకుంటున్నారని చెప్పి అందరూ కూడా మమ్మల్ని చూసి చాలా హ్యాపీగా ఫీల్ అవుతున్నారు. వాళ్ళు ఫీల్ అవుతుంది చూసి మేము కూడా చాలా హ్యాపీగా ఫీల్ అవుతాం.
మీరు ఈ పొజిషన్లో ఉండడానికి ముఖ్యంగా కారణం
మేము ఈ విధంగా ముందు రావడానికి మాకు సపోర్టర్గా పరివార సంస్థ నుంచి మాకు సపోర్ట్ చేస్తున్నారు. మాకు సపోర్ట్గా ఉన్నది రచన గారు అండ్ అంజలి గారు, యూఎస్లో ఉండే అంజలి గారు మాకు బాగా సపోర్ట్ చేస్తారు. అలాగే వీరి సపోర్ట్తో పాటు మేము ఈ వేలో వెళ్ళాలి, ఈ దారిలో వెళ్ళాలని చెప్పి మా గురువు గారు కూడా మమ్మల్ని చాలా హ్యాపీ సపోర్ట్ చేస్తున్నారు. మా గురువు పేరు వచ్చి
చూస్తున్నారు కదండి. సో మీరు ఖచ్చితంగా బీరం కూడా వస్తే మాత్రం ఖచ్చితంగా ఈ బ్రేక్ఫాస్ట్ మీరు ఇక్కడ ట్రై చేయండి. అండ్ స్వయంగా మీ బిజినెస్ ఇలాగే ఇంకా ముందుకు వెళ్ళాలని, మీకు ఇంకా సపోర్ట్ రావాలని, సొసైటీలో మీరు ఒక మంచి రెస్టారెంట్ స్టార్ట్ చేసి ఇదే బీరం కూడా ఒక రెస్టారెంట్ స్టార్ట్ చేస్తే ఖచ్చితంగా నేను ఆ రెస్టారెంట్ ఓపెనింగ్ కూడా రావాలని కోరుకుంటున్నాను. థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్.
హాయ్ మ్యామ్, నమస్తే.
నమస్తే, ఎలా ఉన్నారు? మీరు చెప్పండి.
న్యూ స్టైల్ ఎంబ్రాయిడింగ్ మిషన్. ఆయన ట్రాన్స్ ఉమెన్. నేను చాలా ప్రౌడ్గా ఫీల్ అవుతున్నాను. నేను అటు ఓన్గా బిజినెస్ పెట్టుకున్నాను.
ఓకే. సో మీరు ఎంబ్రాయిడరీ ఎంపోరియం నడపడానికి కానీ లేకపోతే స్పెషల్గా లేడీస్ కోసం మీరు టైలరింగ్ చేస్తున్నారు, వాళ్ళ దగ్గర నుంచి మీకు రిసీవింగ్ ఎలా?
నాకు పరివార సంస్థ వాళ్ళు పరిచయం అయ్యారు. రచన ముద్రపోయిన గారు పరిచయం అయ్యారు. వాళ్ళతో అంజలి రివ్యూ గారు పరిచయం చేశారు. పరిచయం చేయడం వల్ల ఆవిడ ఒక ట్రాన్స్ మెయిన్ కనుక నా ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ అవి అర్థం చేసుకొని నాకు ఈ ఐడియా ఇచ్చింది. అప్పుడు నేను ఆలోచించుకుంది ఏంటంటే ఒక న్యూ స్టైల్ ఎంబ్రాయిడింగ్ మిషన్ పెట్టుకొని 4-5 కుట్టు మిషన్లు పెట్టుకుంటే నాకు వచ్చిన వర్క్ ని చేస్తూ ఇంకా 2-3 ట్రాన్స్జెండర్స్కి ఉపాధి కల్పించవచ్చు అనే ఐడియా మీద ఈ బిజినెస్ స్టార్ట్ చేయడం జరిగింది.
సో ఇప్పుడు ఈ బిజినెస్ మీకు చేస్తున్నప్పుడు మీరు ఎలా ఫీల్ అవుతున్నారని మీరు ఏం చెప్పాలనుకుంటున్నారు?
నేను చాలా హ్యాపీగా ఫీల్ అవుతున్నాను. ఒక దుకాణం దగ్గరికి వెళ్ళి అడుక్కొని తెచ్చుకునేది అనిపించదు. ఫస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ఆల్ నా కాళ్ళ మీద నిలబడుతున్నాను. నెక్స్ట్ కస్టమర్లు అందరికీ కూడా వస్తున్నారు. నేను వాళ్ళ దగ్గరికి వెళ్ళాలి, వాళ్ళందరికీ వస్తాను. తీసుకునే వాళ్ళు నాకు చాలా హ్యాపీగా ఉంది.
ఓకే. సో మీ డ్రీమ్ ఖచ్చితంగా ఫుల్ఫిల్ అవ్వాలని కోరుకుంటున్నాను అవంతిక. థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్. ఇట్ మీన్స్ ఎ లాట్.
Granddaughter. She's a doctor.
నమస్తే డాక్టర్ రూపాల్ గారు, ఎలా ఉన్నారు?
నమస్తే మ్యామ్, బాగున్నారు. మీరు ఎలా ఉన్నారు?
బాగున్నాను. తెలంగాణ స్టేట్ మొత్తంలో చూసుకుంటే ఒక ట్రాన్స్జెండర్ డాక్టర్గా మీరు చాలా మందికి వైద్యం చేస్తున్నారు. మేము రెగ్యులర్గా చూస్తున్నాము. క్లినిక్ స్టార్ట్ చేసినప్పుడు కానీ వాట్ యూ ఫెల్ట్ అండ్ ఫ్రమ్ వేర్ యూ గాట్ ది సపోర్ట్?
ఈ క్లినిక్ స్టార్ట్ చేయాలంటే అంటే నా చిన్నప్పటి నుంచి ఒక గోల్ ఉండేది. రోజుగా క్లినిక్ స్టార్ట్ చేద్దామంటే అది త్రూ ది సీజన్ పరివార్ ఏరియా ద్వారా నాకు ఈ సపోర్ట్ దొరికింది. సో ఇది వాళ్ళు ఇచ్చిన ఈ సపోర్ట్ వల్ల నేను క్లినిక్ స్టార్ట్ చేయగలిగాను. అదే కామన్ సిస్ ఎవరైతే మేల్ డాక్టర్స్ ఉంటారో వాళ్ళకంటే ఎక్కువగా మంచి సర్వీస్ సేవ చేయాలనే ఉద్దేశంతో ఉంది. అలాగే చేయాలనే కోరిక చేస్తున్నాను కూడా. ఫీల్ వెరీ హ్యాపీ, చాలా ప్రౌడ్గా ఫీల్ అవుతున్నాను. యాజ్ ఎ ట్రాన్స్ డాక్టర్గా ఈ తెలుగు రాష్ట్రాల్లోనే ఒక ట్రాన్స్ డాక్టర్గా అయితే చాలా హ్యాపీగా ఫీల్ అవుతున్నాను.
ఓకే.
మై క్లినిక్ నర్స్ సిస్టర్ అరుణ, షీ డిడ్ AM అండ్ షీ వర్కింగ్ మై క్లినిక్.
ఓ ప్లీజ్ కమ్ ఆన్. హలో అండి, నమస్తే. మీ పేరు? అరుణ. నైస్ అరుణ. అంటే ఒకటితో పాటు ఒక డాన్స్ నర్స్ కూడా ఈరోజు మాకు చూపించేశారు. అండ్ నెక్స్ట్ ఇంకెవరున్నారండి?
ల్యాబ్ టెక్నీషియన్ తను చాలా తక్కువ కాస్ట్ కూడా మాకు స్పెషల్గా మేము చెప్పినప్పుడు మా కమ్యూనిటీ పీపుల్స్కి చాలా లో బడ్జెట్స్తో తను అన్ని రకాల స్క్రీనింగ్స్ టెస్ట్ కూడా మాకు అందిస్తున్నారు. ఈజ్ జాష్వా.
యా జాష్వా గారు, కమ్. నైస్ టు మీట్ యూ అండి. యా, థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్ ఫర్ సర్వింగ్ ద జనరల్ కమ్యూనిటీ విత్ అవర్ ట్రాన్స్ కమ్యూనిటీ. థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్. नमस्ते ऋषि जी, कैसे हैं आप? अच्छे। तो आप तो अभी मैनेजर हैं, आपके शुक्ल परिवार से काम चल रहा है आपका, तो आपके काम के बारे में बोलिए।
अभी मैं सीजन में एज ए प्रोग्राम ऑफिसर काम कर रहा हूँ।
अच्छा।
और लास्ट 4 मंथ से मैं सीजन में। अच्छा। अभी सीजन में जो काम कर रहे हैं लैस्टो पे टाइम पे जो इफेक्टेड हुआ है ट्रांसजेंडर कम्युनिटी से, उन लोगों का जो लाइटिंग प्रोजेक्ट चालू है उनके ऊपर रेगुलर जो काम होते हैं वो फॉलो करते हैं। अच्छा। उनके साथ साथ हर महीने का उनका जो रेवेन्यू होता है, प्रॉफिट बनते हैं, उनका जो रिपोर्टिंग करते हैं वो सब मैं करता हूँ। और इसके साथ साथ फंडर के साथ कुछ कम्युनिकेशन करना या डे टू डे जॉब वो
इट्स अ वेरी की रोल ऑफ ये जो भी प्रोजेक्ट्स अभी चल रहे हैं, ये प्रोजेक्ट को लेके बहुत सारे लोग जो है दे आर इंटरेस्टेड टू बी ए बिजनेस ट्रांसफॉर्मेंट्स एंड बिजनेस ट्रांसफॉर्मेंट्स। सो आप लोगों के क्या बोलेंगे आप?
तो मैं बताना चाहता हूँ कि एक बहुत बड़ा इनिशिएटिव है ट्रांसजेंडर के लिए और अपने आप को प्रूव करने की कोशिश करते हैं कि हम लोग भी कर सकते हैं कुछ।
ऋषि जी, आप अभी तेलंगाना स्टेट में और आंध्र प्रदेश में 2 स्टेट में आप मैनेजर के जैसा काम कर रहे हैं, तो आपको कभी कॉल ऐसा आया कि हमारा बिजनेस ठीक नहीं चल रहा है, हम लोगों को और भी ट्रेनिंग चाहिए और भी कुछ फाइनेंशियल सपोर्ट चाहिए करके आपको कभी किसी का फोन आया था?
और इसके लिए हम लोग दूसरे प्रोजेक्ट के साथ टाई अप करने की ट्राई कर रहे हैं जो कम्युनिटी को ट्रेनिंग देने के लिए इनिशिएटिव ले चुका है फिर भी चालू। उनके साथ टाई अप करने के बाद उनका जो भी ट्रेनिंग चाहिए वो ट्रेनिंग भी हो जाएगा और जो कॉस्ट है कॉस्ट भी वो माना जाएगा।
ओके, थैंक यू सो मच।
నాకు ఈ పాటలు ఇది పెట్టించినందుకు అండ్ హెల్ప్ చేసినందుకు థ్యాంక్ యూ अंजलि मम्मी एंड रचना मम्मी కూడా।
थैंक यू शीतल परिवार, अंजलि जी आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, और रचना जी आपने मेरे को इतना सपोर्ट किया, आपका भी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
ఈ సాయికృప పాటలు మాకు అందించిన అంజలి రెడ్డి గారికి, రచన ముసుకొని గారికి ఎంతో మేము పడి ఉంటాము. వారికి ధన్యవాదాలు.
సపోర్ట్ చేసిన పరివార్ సీతల్ పరివార్ వారికి థ్యాంక్ యూ చెప్పుకుంటున్నాను. అంజలి టీవీ వారికి కూడా థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్. థ్యాంక్ యూ అంజలి టీవీ గారు, థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్.
వెరీ వెరీ థ్యాంక్స్।
Thank you so much, Anjali Rimpi Mummy garu.
Thank you all again for being here. I know it's quite late, but hope you can stay around, mingle and eat and take food home. Thank you for being here. I think the light is, I'm not sure what happened.